Well. We've made it to episode 2. No one's gonna believe me when this actually takes off. Welcome to Blush, the podcast where we avoid reality by diving into the world of BL. I'm your new bestie, Ray. Every week, I'll be doing episode reviews from BL drama series, old and new, as well as providing updates on upcoming series, ships, and everything BL. Let's dive in. Welcome back. I am so glad to be here for another episode. I hope everyone's week is going well and you guys are seated and ready to chat. So my July watch list is getting out of control. I feel like every time I look up, there's a new BL being announced. And I'm not complaining. It's just like, I have a job and I have a life. I guess this is my life now, but there's just so many to keep up with. So far, what I have listed down for my July premieres are This Love Doesn't Have Long Beans, which is going to be a change to 561. I'm not really sure how they say it. BL, so it's going to have, if you watch Pit Babe, Jeff and Alan, their government names are Silub and Tenopon. If I said those wrong, please do not give me shit. I'm new to this. I actually became quite invested in this couple because I think Silub. I think he's very handsome. P. Allen, he caught my attention. And they ended up having some pretty good chemistry in Pit Babe. So I'm really excited to see them in very different roles because Alan's character seemed a little more soft and nice, and the character he's gonna be playing in this one, he seems a little commanding. So it's a cooking BL, and it seems like there's some other stuff going on. I've watched the trailer and the pilot, but it's been a couple weeks since I watched it. By the time this episode comes out on Spotify, by the time this episode is published, this will have already premiered. So I'm very excited to start watching it. I already started watching Love Sea, which premiered a few weeks ago. So I don't know which one I want to do after I finish We Are, because there are so many episodes in that one. But you can look forward to it. So This Love Doesn't Have Long Beans is the one I'm most excited for and probably the one I'll watch next. As far as the other ones I have on my list, have 4 Minutes is another Thai BL that is supposed to premiere on July 26th, starring the Bible Jess ship. I'm not as familiar with them, so when I watch this, it will be my first time seeing a drama with them in it. I also have Battle of the Writers coming up, which is a Mandy Work BL starring the Tudor Yim ship, so I'm really excited to see that. I've saw Yim in Bedfriend, and then I also watched Middleman's Love. I don't know if I loved Middleman's Love, so I'm hoping Battle of the Writers is going to redeem it for me. So I'm super hyped to watch that. And the last thing I have on my list is First Note of Love. It is a Taiwanese BL. I don't know who the actors are. I don't have that much information, but it's supposed to premiere sometime this month, so I thought I'd just throw it in there. But yes, like I mentioned, there are so many Thai BLs coming out, and if I only exclusively watch Thai BL, I feel like I would have content for a very, very long time. But I also watch Korean and Japanese BL too. So I don't know. I'm trying to keep tabs on those too. I need to plug into the right sources so I can give you guys information on that as well. Now that we've established my social life is literally non-existent for the month of July, shall we jump into our episode summary? So we're back with episode 2 of We Are. Last week we started watching, and so before I jump into episode 2, I guess a quick recap of the main points of episode 1. Really the big one is our main couple, Peem and Phum, meet for the first time, and they have a pretty rocky interaction, which leads to a lot of tension and hot blood. And so at the end of episode 1, we get left on a cliffhanger where Phum demands that Phum compensates him for his injuries in the form of money or in the form of something else. So that's where we begin episode 2. If you would like more details on the summary, pop back over to episode 1 and hear me talk about it there. So, as I mentioned, we start episode 2 right where we left off episode 1 with Poom and Phum talking about how Phum is going to compensate him for his injuries. So, we discover that Poom pretty much asks Phum to be his slave for 2 months. If he can't pay in cash, he's like, pay me back by being my slave. Phum's like, you gotta be joking. I'm not gonna be your slave. And also, what am I gonna get out of this? You ruined my artwork. Now I have nothing to submit to the gallery. And it took me weeks to finish that. To which Phum responds, if you don't want to be my slave, then you could just pay up. So the choice is yours. From this point, I would say Phum agrees rather easily to being Phum's slave, although he says he won't do it for 2 months. He'll only do it until he finishes his art piece, which Phum responds like, what if you just throw it together in a couple of days? Very insulted, Phum was like, I will not do it in a couple of days because it's a masterpiece, and I will only do this under one condition. You cannot tell anybody that I'm your slave. You absolutely cannot tell. So they shake on it, and Phum tells Phum to come with him. The next scene, we see that they are together in a car headed somewhere. Phum is really just yapping in the passenger seat about how he'll finish the art and this will be a story that everybody will forget. And Phum is just literally ignoring him. He's not saying anything to him in response. I would say that at this point, Phum is quite the character. He's pretty funny and just very nonchalant. So from here, they are actually headed to the mall where Phum makes Phum carry all of his bags. He's just purchasing random luxury brands. I think flexing his wealth. There's no real reason for them to be at the mall. So Phum carries all of his items around until Phum is satisfied, and till which he goes home. Once at home, Phum runs into his aunt leaving for the weekend. She says she's going to his grandma's house and she'll be back, and for him not to drink all weekend with his friends and to actually be productive, to which he says that he promises that he will come home no later than 6 a.m. As she leaves, she's like, watch my house, watch my shop, don't let anybody destroy anything. And she just leaves because there's no point in trying to convince a college student to be productive, I guess. Phum goes and falls asleep on the couch and wakes up to his 4 friends standing over him, very concerned because he wasn't answering the phone. So Q and Chain and Tan are all aware of the situation, but Pun was not, and he just showed up, I guess, for good times. He's such a space cadet, so it kind of makes sense that he didn't know what was happening and just showed up for the gossip. Tan asks what happened with Phum, and Phum says, nothing. He didn't want anything, like we just cleared it up and that was it. Q and Tan and Chain are all like, nothing happened, like nothing. You guys just talked and he didn't do anything to you. I find this really hard to believe. Phum's like, yeah, we just talked. And what do you mean you find this hard to believe? And he's like, Tan, you knew that he was gonna do something to me. You still brought him over to me anyway. He's like, bro, what the fuck? So Tan shuts up after that point because, I mean, it's true. He pretty much betrayed his friend. He knew that Phum was not the kind to let stuff go, and he still took him over there. So, yikes. After barely convincing his friends that nothing happened, they decide that they want to cook. So Tan goes outside to cook some water spinach, and while Tan is cooking, Q pulls Phum to the side, or Phum and Q are to the side chatting, and Q's like, are you sure? Are you sure Phum didn't do anything to you? Like nothing to you at all? And Phum's like, no, we just cleared the air and that was that. So Q asks, what is he gonna do to compensate you for your artwork? What came out of that? To which Phum lies and says that he just paid him and that everything is over and done with. At this point, they just enjoy their water spinach and have a good time hanging out as friends. There's a lot of hanging out in the show, which is good. Like, I mean, we like lighthearted fun. You know, I wish I could cook with my friends on the weekend and do jack shit, but I digress. The next day, we're back on campus where Phum shows up with breakfast for his classmates. It seems like they take turns bringing food for everyone who is trapped in the art studio. and he meets up with Q there. They're meeting with the professor to get some feedback on the artworks that they're working through for the next assignment submission. Here we get a little bit of slice of life where we get to see Pym struggling with his artwork a little bit, thinking that maybe it's not good enough, and getting advice from the professor on what he can do to be better as an artist. After Pym wraps up with the professor, Toy and I believe his name is Matt. I don't know if anybody's really said it, but Toy's best friend show up in the art studio. Q's like, "What are you guys doing here?" And they said that they were there to meet the professor to get some feedback on their assignment that's due. Q proceeds to tease Toy a little bit, asking him to show the artwork that he's submitting, and he compliments it by saying that you're in fact my mentee. To which Toy responds and says, "What does it have to do with you?" And he's like, "Because I'm the person who showed you how to draw like that. I literally guided your hand on this particular piece of artwork." Since the art was in fact well drawn, Q asks Toy how long he's been drawing, since he's a first year fine art student. This question pretty much makes Toy freeze on the spot, and Matt replies by saying that Toy actually just started drawing. He was actually going to study medicine, and he's a late bloomer to finding his calling. While Toy is standing there like a statue, we get a flashback to when he was back in high school. He was sitting at a cafe studying medicine, where the barista asked him if that's what he wanted to go to school for, and he said that his mom wanted him to go to school for medicine, but he wasn't quite sure what it is that he really enjoyed doing. While he was sitting there, another high school student from a different high school walks in with his headphones and just goes to sit down in a corner where there's a bunch of artworks, and it turns out that it's Q. So this gives us a little background story on how or why like Toy came to like Q, but we still don't have any details on it at this point. Toy snaps out of his trance when Q flicks him on the forehead, and now we're back to reality. As Q and Toy are teasing each other back and forth, Pym suddenly gets a phone call from an unknown number. Of course, as you would expect, he answers it, and it's Phum calling him. No idea how Phum got his number, but he is asking, like, "What's up? Like, why are you calling me?" Phum says he's thirsty and he needs Pym to come and buy him a drink. So he tells him to hurry over to the engineering faculty, or else he's going to tell all of Pym's friends about the slave agreement. Pym rushes over and finds Phum sitting in the engineering faculty canteen and asks him what it is that he wants to drink. Phum pretty much gives a non-answer. He just says he's thirsty and for Pym to buy him a drink. From this point, Pym just purchases a bottle of water, which I think is pretty smart on his part, that Phum refuses, saying that he doesn't drink water. As if there's any person that doesn't drink water, he's just being a dick. So Pym goes back and buys a different drink, and Phum refuses, and this happens a couple more times. Phum also demands that Pym buys him lunch after buying the drinks. So they're sitting there having lunch, and Phum's just being really, really annoying. While Pym is super paranoid that Tan is going to see him because Tan is also a student in the engineering faculty. Phum says that Tan should still be in class because they have a class at this time, which Phum obviously skipped for the sole purpose of terrorizing Pym. As they leave the canteen, Tan is walking up, and Pym's like, "Bro, I thought you said he had a class," to which Phum's response is, "I didn't think it was going to get out early." So Pym runs and ducks behind some parked cars out of sight. Tan walks up to Phum and gently reminds him that he has to keep his promise. So if you recall from episode 1, in order for Tan to take Phum to Pym, he asked for a favor in return. So now we're finally getting some clarity on what this favor was. It turns out that Tan has a crush on Phum's older brother, Phong, and Tan asks Phum to help him hit on Phong. Phum's like, "I can't believe you have a crush on my older brother, and I really don't think it'll happen because you're not really his type, but since I promised, I'll keep my promise and I'll help you out. What do you want me to do?" So Tan asks Phum to invite Phong to go out drinking later that evening so he could have an opportunity to hit on him. So everyone shows up at the usual bar, all the fine art students, Q, Toy, Matt, Pim, and there's a girl, but I don't know her name. And they're all there because they submitted their assignments, so they were having a good time after being done with school. Meanwhile, upstairs, Poom is there with Tan, waiting on Fong to show up as promised by Poom. Fong shows up and asks Poom why did he invite him out to a bar suddenly. They could have just hung out elsewhere. And Poom says he wanted a change of scenery, and he invited Tan and others, but Tan was the only person who was available, so it was just the three of them. Tan is sitting there very, very giddily staring at Fong, and Fong's like, long time no see, like, I thought you were dead, because he seems to be a little rough in the way that he speaks, but maybe he's a nice guy. We'll find out later in the series. But overall, nothing very interesting is happening because Tan is just making like lovey-dovey eyes at Fong and not really saying much. Which is kind of strange because he asked Poom to invite him out to flirt, but I feel like no flirting is happening. Back downstairs with the fine art crew, Pim is gone. Like at this point, this is the second time I've seen him this drunk, so I think he might have a drinking problem. All of his friends are. Toy is also gone as well. You know, I don't know why he's so drunk. I don't know if his assignment is really tough or maybe he's battling his demons because he's in love with his mentor. I'm not sure. Either way, Pim says that he's gonna leave by himself, to which everyone is like, how? You can't even open your eyes, you can't even stand up straight. But Pim insists that he's gonna go home by himself, he's gonna call a cab, and he's gonna leave. He literally makes it 3 feet outside of the door and passes out on a bench. Conveniently, Tan, Fong, and Poom are all leaving the bar and they see Pim sprawled out on the bench. And Tan's like, Pim, what are you doing here? Why are you so drunk? Like, you reek of alcohol, and how are you getting home? Pim says he called a cab, which he did not because his phone is not even working at this point, but he's so drunk he did not realize that. Fong's like, Pim, that name sounds familiar. He's like, oh, Poom, is this the guy that hurt you? Like, this, like, scrawny, like, passed out drunk man is who hurt you? So they have a little giggle about that, but Fong suggests that Poom takes Pim home because he hadn't been drinking. Tan quickly agrees because at that suggestion, Fong also says that he and Tan will take a cab home together, and Tan just sees this as an opportunity to keep flirting with Fong. I guess in his own way, because like I said, he literally wasn't saying anything the whole time that they were hanging out. Fong and Tan walk Poom and Pim to the car and help, in quotations, help Poom put Pim in the car, and then they go off. As Poom is getting ready to get in the car, a small kid shows up with a bundle of roses asking him to buy the roses, and Poom's like, I'm not interested in the roses. But the little boy says, you can buy them for your boyfriend, pointing at a passed out Pim in the passenger seat of the car. Poom decides to buy all of the roses off the little boy, thinking he was doing a good deed, but he low-key got scammed because the little boy just asked his mom to bring more roses because they had ran out. Poom gets into the car and he looks over at this sleeping beauty that is Pim in his passenger seat, and he leans over and puts on the seatbelt. And obviously this is a scene that we've all seen before. As he reaches over him to pull the seatbelt, he gets extremely close to his face. You get to admire his beauty, and I think this is like the first time that we're seeing any indication that Poom might be interested in Pim as more than what their current relationship is. I think we saw a little bit of it in the cafeteria when he was playing around with him, even though it's really played well. Like, it's like light teasing, but I think you could see a little bit of him falling at that point as well. At this point, we jump over to Tan and Fong waiting for a cab. Fong's like, oh man, there's not very many cabs out tonight. We might have to wait a long time. Tan says he doesn't mind waiting, obviously, because this is his opportunity to shoot his shot. While they're waiting, Fong asks Tan a little bit about his friend Pim. Like, what is he like? What kind of person is he? Tan says that Pim is really easygoing. He really cares about his friends and he's always there when I need him. Fong's like, okay, okay, good to know. Tan asks why Fong is interested in Pim and he says just because. To which Tan responds, aren't you interested in learning a little bit more about me? Fong looks at him kind of dreamy eyed and smiles and doesn't really say anything. And they start playing like this weird 1950s diner music. I feel like it's a little cheesy, but it's pretty cute at the same time. And at this moment, of course, a taxi shows up. Fong tries to leave Tan, but Tan is sad, so Fong asks if he wants to tag along, so they both climb into the back of the cab. The entire ride, Tan is just making googly eyes at Fong and trying to get close to him. I think he just pretends to fall over and he's asleep, and Fong pushes his head off, and then he pretends like the driver is like swerving and throwing him about in the back, and it's pretty easy. Like you can tell that Fong knows what Tan is doing, and he seems to be amused by it. So there's some mutual affection here. In our couple number three. Jumping back over to our fine arts baby toy, he is sitting on a curb, drunk off his ass, face red, eyes shut. Q comes over with a bottle of water and tries to get Toy to drink it because he's super drunk. He needs to be hydrated. What a great friend. Toy starts whining and asking for Matt. He's like, where's Matt? Matt said he was going to take me home. Where is he? Q tells Toy that Matt has already left. Like, you sent him off in a car. Like, don't you remember? So Toy starts whining a little bit and flailing about, and he eventually just settles in falling into Q's lap and falling asleep and just being cute. The whole time, Q is just smiling and trying to take care of him and stuff. So I think there's also some affections on Q's part as well towards Toy, even though he doesn't really show it. I feel like Q is more of a kind of stone faced character. So he's a little hard to read to figure out what's going on. But like on a side note, I really should look into the actor that's playing Toy. He is adorable. Like he is so cute. I know he's like a grown man, but he's just like, oh, like like cute aggression. Like I just want to take care of him. Poom finally gets home with Pim, and his aunt comes down and helps Poom bring Pim upstairs to his room. And she's just like, who are you? I've never seen you before. Are you friends with Pim? To which Poom responds, yes, I am a friend of his. And Pim drunkenly says, no, he's not. So just a little bit of fun there. The aunt complains that Pim drinks every day. Like, he gets drunk like this every day. And she's like, can you just, if you don't have anywhere to go, can you just stay and watch him for a bit? Because he's a whiner. And I'm please, just watch him. I'm going to go grab a towel and I'll come back to help clean him up. While the aunt is gone, Pum is looking around the room, kind of admiring Pim's space. And suddenly Pim says something that's unintelligible. So Pum sits on the bed and gets closer and says, What did you say? Pim sits up, gets very close to Pum's face, and says, you've got a tall nose, lovely eyes, and a handsome face. And he grabs his chin and pulls him closer. Pum's like, What are you doing? And Pim responds, why are you such an asshole? And he just falls back asleep on the bed. So that was pretty funny. But at this point, Poom is just looking at Pim pass out on the bed very lovingly and admiringly. And this brings us to the end of episode 2. So a lot happened in this episode. Definitely a lot more than episode 1. So it was pretty fun, and I would say it helped me from start to finish. I'm enjoying the series so far. I know we're only 2 episodes in and we got a ways to go, but I don't have anything negative to say. I think like most dramas, Poom fell in love so fast. Like it's like point 0.2 seconds. I mean, of course, it's really early, so he's not gonna say that he likes Pim. He's just gonna be like, "Oh yeah, like he's my slave." Like I'm calling it already, but just can we get to know people before we start falling in love? Like, 2 days ago, literally 2 days ago, like I'm not making this up, like 2 days ago, this man kicked you in the balls, and now today you're looking at him lovingly as he is passed out drunk in his room. I I just hope it works out for them because it's a drama, so it has to work. It has to work. This is my first introduction to the Pawn Poo and ship, and they seem to have pretty good chemistry. Like you can tell, they work very closely together, and I feel like they're portraying the characters very well. Also, to me personally, they're both very handsome, so I enjoy watching them on the screen. All the close-ups of their faces is really, I would say, a bonus for me. The Q and Toy couple, I think, will be interesting now that we have a little bit more backstory on them. That Toy knew of Q before college, but Q seemingly doesn't know anything about Toy. Like, he just met him in college. So I'm curious to see how that pans out. If they're gonna get together or fall for each other as quickly as Poom fell for Pim. But only time will tell at this point. I'm pretty sure we're gonna get a lot more on them. They seem like I would say the second lead couple, so I feel like we're gonna spend a lot of time focusing on them. Tan and Fong. I don't know how I feel about them so far, but I think mostly it's because I don't really know anything about Fong. Like, we've had a lot of interaction with Tan at this point so far, and like he's just, I would say he's just a clown, just, full of joy, doesn't really take anything seriously, and is quite lighthearted. Fong seems really stiff, so they seem kind of polar opposites. So I don't really know what Tan sees in Fong. Also, Fong is older, so, and they didn't go to the same high school. I don't know how they know each other. So I need more insight on that one. But overall, I would say I'm satisfied so far with the series. Like I said, don't really have anything bad to say. It's a nice, easygoing slice of life school drama. I know the general consensus is, I think I read somewhere online that the girlies are saying that the 2024 BLs are not how they used to be. And as a newcomer to the scene, I think it's, especially with the Thai BLs, that a lot of girls are missing the old days of the engineering student, like, school type BLs. And I think We Are is really going to satisfy that for a lot of people. Other than, I think the only other one that I've seen similar to this is Secret Crush on You, and that one was completely different. Maybe later we'll dive into that one because I have so much to say on that one. But other than that, I'm not very familiar with the student, like, couple genre of BL, so this is my first introduction. And yeah, it's just like a good, easygoing drama so far. Hopefully, there will be no trauma or anything like that in the future, and it'll just be a good, wholesome story. And that's a wrap for this episode. Since we still don't have any sponsors, today's episode was brought to you by that one fan cam of Pooin dancing to Hit Me Up at the LOL Fan Fest this year. Okay, seriously, that's all I have for now. I'll see you guys next week when we watch episode 3. Bye! Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Blushed. If you like this episode, please leave a review. For drama recs, please email them to blushedpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, stay rosy, and I'll see you next week.